Hello and welcome. You find yourself standing at the threshold of something extraordinary, something that has been hidden beneath layers of time, magic, and deliberate obscurement. The forgotten realms stretch before you, a vast tapestry of lands and peoples. But what you see on the surface is merely the beginning. Beneath every city street, behind every throne, and within every spell lies a secret. Some of these secrets have been buried for thousands of years. Others remain active, shaping the world even as you walk through it, invisible threads pulling at the fabric of reality itself. The very name speaks to this truth. These are the Forgotten Realms, lands where history does not simply fade. It vanishes entirely, consumed by cataclysm, magic, or the deliberate actions of those who would rather certain truths remain hidden. You might wonder why a world would be named for what it has lost, rather than what it possesses. The answer reveals something fundamental about the nature of Faerûn and the wider world of Toril. This is a place defined as much by what has been forgotten as by what is remembered. When you walk the streets of Waterdeep or traverse the wild forests of Cormenther, you tread upon the ruins of civilizations that rose to heights your current world cannot imagine. The magic wielded by the ancient Netherese makes contemporary wizardry look like the fumbling attempts of apprentices. The empires that spanned continents have crumbled into dust, leaving behind only fragments, hints of knowledge that could reshape reality itself if properly understood. Yet these secrets remain buried, waiting for someone with the courage and insight to uncover them. The gods themselves are complicit in this forgetting. Divine beings who once walked openly among mortals, who died and were reborn, who waged wars that reshaped continents. They too keep secrets. The time of troubles revealed much, tearing away the veil between the divine and mortal realms. Yet even this apocalyptic event raised more questions than it answered. For every secret revealed, a dozen more emerged, deeper and more troubling than what came before. You exist in a world where magic is not merely a tool, but a fundamental force woven into the very structure of reality. The weave connects all things, visible and invisible, known and unknown. Yet, even this seemingly universal force holds secrets. Not all magic flows through the weave, as scholars believe. There are older powers, darker sources, and alternative paths that few even suspect exist. The death of Mistra in 1300 and 85 Dale Reckoning proved that what you thought was eternal could be shattered in an instant. And when it was, the secrets that spilled forth transformed entire nations overnight. Consider the nature of these secrets. Some are historical, records of events deliberately erased or accidentally lost. Others are geographical, entire regions that vanish from maps or never appeared on them in the first place. Still more are magical, truths about the nature of power that could elevate a hedge wizard to godlike status or doom them to something worse than death. Then there are the personal secrets, the hidden identities and covert allegiances of individuals who shape the fate of nations while presenting carefully crafted facades to the world. The Harpers know this truth well. This secret society operates across the realms, gathering information, manipulating events, and working toward goals they rarely explain even to their own members. They understand that knowledge is power, and that the greatest knowledge is that which remains hidden until the precise moment it can be most effectively deployed. Yet, even the Harpers do not know everything. There are secrets that predate their organization by millennia. Secrets that would shatter their carefully constructed understanding of how the world works. You might ask yourself why these secrets matter. After all, if something has been forgotten, perhaps it deserves to remain so. This thinking reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how the Forgotten Realms function. Nothing truly vanishes here. The past is not dead. It is not even past, as some philosopher might say. The ancient empires, the fallen gods, the catastrophic events that reshaped continents, they all continue to exert influence on the present. A spell cast 10,000 years ago might still be active, its effects so subtle that no one realizes they live within its influence. A god thought long dead might be merely sleeping, waiting for the precise conjunction of events that will allow their return. The Faerûns learned this lesson in the most destructive way possible. These ancient creatures, slug-shaped beings of immense magical power and malevolent intelligence, were driven underground in negative 33,800 Dale reckoning. They did not simply accept this exile. They waited, they planned, and when the surface world forgot about them, they struck. The creation of the Anauroch Desert was no natural event. It was a deliberate act of magical warfare, retaliation against the Netherese whose spellcasting was disrupting the magical environment of the underground realms. By the time surface dwellers realized what was happening, it was too late. An entire region had been transformed into lifeless wasteland, and the secret of how it truly occurred was buried beneath the sand. This pattern repeats throughout the history of the realms. Secrets emerge from the forgotten, pass to shape the present in ways both subtle and catastrophic. The orc invasions that nearly destroyed multiple empires in negative 1076 to negative 1069 Dale reckoning were not simple barbarian raids. They resulted from wizards opening a portal to another world, deliberately unleashing hundreds of thousands of orcs for reasons that remain unclear even now. Did they intend this outcome, or were they attempting something else entirely? The truth died with them. Another secret consumed by time. The deicide that occurred during these Orkgate wars reveals another category of secret, the nature of divine mortality. Before this event, few believed a god could truly die. The death of Ra at the hands of Gruumsh, the orc deity, shattered this illusion. Yet, even this revelation came with layers of concealment. How exactly did Gruumsh accomplish this feat? What methods or weapons did he employ? Can these techniques be replicated? The answers to these questions could reshape the balance of power between mortals and gods, yet they remain hidden, perhaps deliberately so. You see the world through mortal eyes, limited by mortal perception, yet the forgotten realms contain beings who perceive reality on entirely different levels. Dragons who have lived for thousands of years accumulate not just treasure, but knowledge, secrets passed down from ancient times or discovered through their own centuries of observation. Liches, undead spellcasters who have conquered death itself, pursue research projects that span millennia, their goals incomprehensible to those who measure time in mere decades. The Aboleth, older than most gods, remember things that occurred before the current order of reality was established. Each of these beings guards secrets that could benefit or doom the world, and none of them share freely. The very geography of the realms holds secrets. Undermountain, the vast dungeon complex beneath Waterdeep, delves into depths that no one has fully explored. Each level contains mysteries, ancient civilizations, magical experiments gone wrong, and deliberate constructions whose purposes remain unclear. The mad wizard Halaster created much of it, but even he built upon foundations that pre-existed his work. What lies at the very bottom? What was there before Halaster arrived? These questions have no confirmed answers, only speculation and the testimony of adventurers who claim to have glimpsed things they cannot adequately describe. Consider also the nature of truth itself in the realms. You might assume that historical records provide reliable accounts of past events. Yet, who writes these records? Victors in conflicts, rulers who benefit from particular narratives, organizations with specific agendas. The official history of any nation represents a carefully curated version of events, one that supports current power structures and ideological frameworks. Alternative accounts exist, hidden in private libraries, encoded in obscure texts, or preserved only in oral traditions of marginalized peoples. To uncover the true history of the realms, you must look beyond official sources to these hidden repositories of knowledge. The elves understand this principle well. Their lifespans allow them to witness events that for humans become history within a single elven lifetime. Yet even elves are not immune to the forces of forgetting. The retreat, the mass exodus of elves to Evermeet, was not simply a voluntary departure. It resulted from complex political, military, and magical pressures, some of which remain poorly understood. Many elven communities chose to erase certain records before departing, ensuring that knowledge they deemed dangerous or sacred would not fall into human hands. What was lost in this deliberate forgetting? What magical practices, historical accounts, or geographical knowledge vanished with the elves? The Drow present an even more complex case. Driven underground thousands of years ago, they developed an entire civilization in isolation from the surface world. Their history of this period, recorded in their own chronicles, differs dramatically from surface accounts. Who tells the truth? Perhaps both, perhaps neither. The The Drow have their own secrets, their own forgotten history that even they no longer fully recall. The worship of Lolt dominates Drow society, but this was not always so. There were other gods, other ways of life, now suppressed and forgotten. The followers of Eilistri, the Dark Maiden, preserve fragments of this alternative history, but even they cannot fully reconstruct what was lost. You stand now at the beginning of a journey into these secrets. The path ahead will take you through the hidden history of gods and empires, through the catastrophic events that reshaped reality itself, and into the shadow world of secret societies and covert powers. You will learn truths that scholars spend lifetimes seeking, truths that have been deliberately concealed or accidentally lost. Yet, you must approach this knowledge with care. Some secrets were hidden for good reasons. Some truths are dangerous, not because of who might misuse them, but because the simple act of knowing them changes you in fundamental ways. The Forgotten Realms are not called forgotten because the world has forgotten them. They are forgotten because the world has forgotten its own true nature, its own hidden depths and secret history. You are about to remember what was lost, to see beneath the surface of things, to understand the invisible threads that connect past and present, mortal and divine, surface and depth. Are you ready to have your understanding of reality transformed? Are you prepared to learn secrets that cannot be unlearned? Then, let us begin this exploration of the hidden truths that shape the world you thought you knew. Section 2. The Overgods' hidden design. The gods you see worshipped across Faerûn, from Tyr to Mistra, from Lathander to Shar. They are not the ultimate powers of the universe. Above them exists a being whose very existence was unknown to most mortals until the cataclysmic events of 1358 Dale Reckoning. This entity is called Io, the Overgod, and his hidden design shapes every aspect of divine reality in ways that even the gods themselves do not fully comprehend. Io is not a god in the traditional sense. He does not grant spells to clerics. He does not desire worship. He does not intervene in mortal affairs except under the most extreme circumstances. His role is something far more fundamental. He is the creator of realm space itself, the cosmic structure that contains the planet Toril and all its sister worlds. He established the gods, gave them their portfolios, and set the rules by which divine power operates. Yet for thousands upon thousands of years, his existence remained theoretical, a philosophical puzzle debated by sages who wondered whether the gods themselves answered to anyone. This secrecy was deliberate. Io prefers to remain hidden, operating from behind the scenes, maintaining what he calls the balance. The gods conduct their affairs, wage their wars, gain and lose followers, all while Io watches from beyond the divine realm. His only concern is that each deity properly maintains their portfolio and does not neglect their worshippers. As long as these conditions are met, he remains invisible, uninvolved, content to let the divine hierarchy function without his direct intervention. Yet, beneath this apparent hands-off approach lies a secret of staggering significance. Io himself serves a higher power. He refers to this entity only as master, and nothing is known about this being beyond Io's brief acknowledgement of its existence. If Io, who can destroy gods with a thought, who can reshape entire worlds, who holds absolute sovereignty over all divine beings in realm space, if such an entity answers to someone else, what does that imply about the true structure of reality? How many layers of cosmic hierarchy exist beyond mortal perception? What is the ultimate source of all power and creation? These questions have no answers, at least none that mortals or even gods can access. Yet the mere existence of this mystery reveals something profound about the nature of the Forgotten Realms. You exist within a nested hierarchy of powers, each level operating according to rules established by the level above. And somewhere beyond all perception lies a force or being that set the entire structure in motion. Every prayer offered, every spell cast, every divine miracle witnessed, all of it functions within a framework whose ultimate origin remains hidden. The time of troubles shattered the veil of secrecy surrounding Io's existence and revealed the mechanisms by which he maintains control over the divine realm. The crisis began when two gods, Bane the Lord of Tyranny and Miakul the Lord of the Dead, stole artifacts called the Tablets of Fate. These were not merely magical items, they were fundamental documents that established the rules of divinity itself. Upon them were written the names of all gods and their portfolios, the specific aspects of reality over which each deity held dominion. Bane and Miakul believed that by stealing these tablets, they could obtain power rivaling Io's own. They were catastrophically wrong. The tablets did not contain Io's power. Their significance lay not in what they could do, but in what they represented, a codification of divine order and responsibility. Yet their theft created chaos throughout the divine hierarchy. Without the tablets in Io's possession, divine portfolios became unstable, shifting unpredictably, causing conflicts and confusion among the gods. Io's response revealed the true extent of his power and the hidden nature of his relationship with the gods. He cast every deity out of their divine realms and down onto the mortal world of Toril. The gods walked among mortals as avatars, divine beings in greatly weakened physical forms, vulnerable to mortal weapons, and subject to mortal limitations. This was not punishment alone. It was a lesson, a demonstration that the gods existed at Io's sufferance, and that their power derived entirely from his allowance. For 4 months, the gods struggled across Toril, seeking the stolen tablets while dealing with mortal threats they had never before faced. Temples were destroyed as gods died in physical form on the surface world. Magic became wildly unpredictable as the very weave destabilized. Without divine oversight from the proper realms, mortals witnessed their gods bleeding, suffering, dying. And in that witnessing, the fundamental relationship between mortal and divine changed forever. The crisis ended when a mortal thief named Cyric recovered both tablets and returned them to Io. The overgod manifested physically at the peak of Mount Waterdeep, the only time in recorded history that he appeared in person on the surface of the world. He accepted the tablets from Cyric, then made a decision that would reshape divine reality. He destroyed the tablets of fate. He deliberately eliminated the very documents that had codified divine order for uncounted millennia. This act reveals a secret about the nature of Io's rule. He does not need written laws or documented hierarchies to maintain control. His power is absolute, independent of any artifact or external support. The tablets had been a convenience, a way to maintain order without constant intervention. By destroying them, Io demonstrated that he could enforce divine law through his will alone. Yet, this choice also had consequences that rippled through reality in unexpected ways. The destruction of the Tablets of Fate initiated a slow merging of Toril with its twin world Aber. These two planets had been split apart in an ancient event called Tearfall, one of the few times Io had intervened before the time of troubles. Aber was ruled by primordials rather than gods, elemental beings of immense power who had fought the gods in the ancient war called the Days of Thunder. By destroying the tablets, Io removed the magical barrier that kept these worlds separated, forcing gods and primordials to share the same reality once more. This reveals another layer of Io's hidden design. He created neither the gods nor the primordials with inherent superiority over the other. When they fought their ancient war for dominion over the mortal realms, Io apparently took no side. The eventual victory of the gods and the splitting of Aber from Toril was not part of some predetermined plan. It was a temporary solution to a conflict that disrupted the balance Io seeks to maintain. By remerging the worlds, he effectively reset this ancient struggle, forcing both divine and primordial powers to find new accommodations. Yet, the most significant change Io implemented after the time of troubles involved the relationship between gods and their worshippers. Before this event, gods were essentially immortal, drawing power from their divine nature rather than from mortal worship. After the crisis, Io established a new rule. Gods would require the worship of mortals to maintain their existence and power. A deity without worshippers would fade and eventually die. This change transformed the fundamental dynamic of divine power. Gods became dependent on mortals in a way they had never been before. They could no longer treat the mortal world as a playing field for their conflicts and ambitions. They had to serve as guardians, protectors, and guides, or risk losing the worship that sustained their very existence. Io enforced this change to ensure that gods would never again neglect their responsibilities to mortals. Consider what this means for the hidden structure of reality. Io deliberately created a system where ultimate power requires service. The gods, beings of immense capability, must serve the needs of mortals or cease to exist. This inverts the traditional hierarchy where the powerful dominate the weak. In Io's design, power flows from below to above, and those at the top must justify their position through ongoing service to those beneath them. Yet, even this system contains secrets. Io himself has no need for worshippers. His power is inherent, not derived from mortal belief or devotion. This means that the rule he imposed on the gods does not apply to him. Why? Is this simply because he stands outside the normal hierarchy, or does it suggest that his power comes from that mysterious master he serves, making him independent of any force within realm space? Another secret concerns Io's role in the creation of new gods. After the time of troubles, he took direct control of apotheosis, the process by which mortals or other beings ascend to godhood. Previously, gods could create other gods, grant divine status to their favored servants, or allow powerful mortals to steal divine essence. Io ended this practice. From that point forward, any being seeking to become a god required his explicit permission. This has profound implications for any mortal who dreams of divine power. Rituals exist, ancient and terrible, that promise godhood to those brave or foolish enough to attempt them. Artifacts of immense power might offer shortcuts to divine status. Yet, without Io's consent, these methods fail spectacularly. The would-be god might become a lich instead, transformed into undead mockery of their ambition. They might be twisted into some other form of cursed creature, neither living nor dead, neither mortal nor divine. Or they might simply be destroyed, their essence scattered across multiple planes of existence. When the wizard Gale attempts apotheosis in some timelines of recent events, his success depends entirely on Io's approval. If the overgod permits his ascension, Gale becomes a god. If Io denies him, the consequences would be catastrophic. This power of approval and denial reveals that Io actively monitors every attempt at divine ascension, personally judging each case and determining its outcome. What criteria does Io use to make these judgments? The answer remains hidden. The gods themselves do not know what conditions must be met for Io to grant divine status. Some speculate that Ogma, god of knowledge, might know this secret, but if so, he has never revealed it. This uncertainty serves Io's purposes, preventing would-be gods from gaming the system or finding loopholes in divine law. Io's control extends to gods from outside realm space as well, deities from other crystal spheres, other cosmic structures governed by different overgods, cannot simply enter realm space and begin gathering worshippers. They require Io's permission to immigrate. Without it, they find themselves unable to cross the boundary, blocked by a force they cannot overcome. This created a unique situation in the ancient land of Mulhorand. Gods from another sphere, Sumerian and Egyptian deities, sought to enter realm space, but found themselves barred by a magical effect called the Amaskar barrier. they could not manifest directly. However, they discovered a workaround. They sent powerful but mortal versions of themselves, avatars that could bypass the barrier while still retaining significant divine power. These avatar gods ruled Mulhorand for thousands of years, slowly declining as they remained cut off from their true divine essence. When Io removed the barrier at the end of the Time of Troubles, these avatars suddenly reunited with their primary essences, restoring them to full godhood. This was not an act of mercy or favor. It was simply Io removing a restriction that no longer served his purposes. The Amaskar barrier had been created by mortal wizards, the Amaskari, and Io had apparently allowed it to function for millennia, despite his ability to remove it at any time. This reveals something troubling about Io's methods. When problems arise that disrupt the balance, his solutions often involve tremendous suffering for mortals. Millions died during the Time of Troubles as gods fought across the surface world. Countless more perished when a bear and Toril began merging, causing catastrophic disruptions to geography, climate, and magic. Io's response to divine misbehavior was to punish not just the gods, but entire populations of mortals who had no involvement in the original transgression. Does this mean Io is evil? The question assumes that mortal concepts of good and evil apply to a being of his nature. Io's alignment is listed as none, suggesting he operates beyond such categories. He maintains the balance, whatever that means in his cosmic perspective. Individual lives, mortal suffering, even the fates of entire civilizations appear to be insignificant details compared to the larger patterns he seeks to preserve. Yet, even Io has limits, or at least he claims to have them. When Mystra died during the crisis of 1385 Dale Reckoning, her essence scattered across multiple mortal women who became chosen, bearers of fragments of divine power. Io could have prevented this. He could have restored Mystra immediately to her full power. Yet he claimed he could not restore her exactly as she had been. Was this a genuine limitation, or was it a choice disguised as inability? Did Io want a new Mystra? One who would remember the fragility of divine status and govern magic more carefully. The god Gargoth, a pit fiend who achieved divine status, claims to have knowledge of beings mightier than even Io. His writings reference struggles against these entities, conflicts in which Io apparently prevailed. Yet questions surround these claims. Is Gargoth mistaken? Is he lying to inflate his own importance? Or did Io truly face threats from beyond realm space? Battles fought in cosmic dimensions that mortals cannot perceive. If other beings of comparable power to Io exist, this suggests a multiverse filled with overgods, each ruling their own crystal sphere or cosmic domain. The mysterious master that Io serves might be the overseer of all these overgods, a being whose power makes Io look as limited as the gods appear to mortals. Speculation leads to dizzying possibilities, hierarchies within hierarchies, powers beyond comprehension, governing the entire structure of existence. You must understand what this means for your place in reality. Every action you take, every choice you make, occurs within a framework established by forces so far beyond your comprehension that their very existence seems like fantasy. Yet these forces are real. Io is real, even if he remains hidden. His design shapes every aspect of divine interaction with the mortal world. The gods you might worship, the powers you might call upon, they all operate within boundaries he established and enforces. The secret at the heart of all this is simple yet profound. Free will exists, but only within limits. You can choose your path, worship whom you please, seek whatever goals inspire you. Yet the fundamental structures of reality, the rules governing magic and divinity, the relationship between mortal and God, these are fixed by Io's design. You play a game whose rules were established before your world existed, and the referee remains forever hidden, intervening only when the game itself is threatened. The next time you witness a divine miracle, when you see a cleric heal the wounded or call lightning from a clear sky, remember that this power flows through channels Io created. The god granting that power does so because Io allows it, under rules Io established, for purposes that ultimately serve Io's vision of balance. And Io himself serves that mysterious master, meaning that even divine miracles are part of some cosmic design whose full scope remains forever beyond mortal or even godly understanding. Section 3. The Spellplague and Magical Revelations, the year 1300, and 85-Dale Reckoning, marks the moment when everything mortals thought they understood about magic proved catastrophically wrong. On the 29th day of Tarsak, Mystra, goddess of magic and keeper of the weave, died for the third time in recorded history. Her death was not a natural passing or a noble sacrifice. It was murder, assassination carried out by the mad god Cyric at the instigation of Shar, goddess of darkness and loss. The weapon used was an ancient artifact called Cyric's Old Staff, and the moment it pierced Mystra's divine form, reality itself began to unravel. You must understand what Mystra represented to grasp the magnitude of this catastrophe. She was not simply a deity who granted spells to wizards and sorcerers. She was the weave itself, or more precisely, her divine essence was woven into every strand of magical energy that permeated the world. When you cast a spell, you reached through the weave to shape reality according to your will. The weave made this safe, controlled, predictable. It channeled raw magical force through structured pathways that even the least experienced apprentice could access without destroying themselves. Mystra actively maintained this structure every moment of every day. The weave was part of her body, and she willed its effects into existence continuously. This was not an automated system that could function without oversight. It required constant divine attention, constant adjustment, constant repair, as countless thousands of spellcasters across multiple worlds and planes drew upon it simultaneously. When Mystra died, this attention ceased instantly. The weave collapsed, not gradually, not in specific locations, but everywhere at once. Every spell being cast at that moment failed catastrophically. Every magical item that drew power from the weave went inert or exploded. Every ritual in progress across the entire multiverse terminated in unpredictable ways, releasing energies their casters could no longer control. Wizards who had spent decades mastering their art found themselves powerless, holding knowledge that no longer functioned, speaking words that had lost all meaning. The physical manifestation of this collapse appeared as blue flame. It erupted first in the Emhyr jungles, west of the nation of Halriwa, then spread with terrifying speed across the surface of Toril and beyond. This was not ordinary fire. Objects touched by these flames did not simply burn. They transformed, twisted, reshaped according to no law mortals understood. Stone flowed like water. Water became solid as iron. Living creatures caught in the flames underwent horrific mutations. Their bodies warped into forms that defied natural categories. These mutated beings became known as spell-scarred, individuals marked by the Spellplague who survived the transformation, but were forever changed. Some gained strange magical abilities completely unlike traditional spellcasting. Others lost their minds, driven insane by the chaotic energies that now coursed through their bodies. Still others found themselves phasing between different states of existence, sometimes solid, sometimes incorporeal, with no control over the transitions. You could not predict what touching the blue flame would do. Two people standing side by side might experience entirely different effects, one gaining power, the other destroyed utterly. Halriwa, a nation of wizards renowned for their mastery of magic, should have been completely annihilated. Their entire civilization was built upon arcane power. Every aspect of their society, from agriculture to defense to governance, relied on magic. Yet the Halruan diviners had foreseen Mystra's death. They did not know precisely when it would occur or how to prevent it, but they knew it was coming. In the final moments before the weave collapsed, they enacted a desperate plan. Using the blue flames of the Spellplague itself, Halruan wizards shifted most of their nation into another world. They transported entire cities, millions of people, vast stretches of territory, moving them from Toril to Abeir in an act of mass planar travel that would have been considered impossible under normal circumstances. The catastrophic energies of the collapsing weave made it possible, though at tremendous cost. Many wizards died in the effort, consumed by the very forces they sought to harness. Many more Halruans were left behind, caught in the transformation of their homeland into one of the most dangerous plaguelands on Toril. The collapse of the weave had a secondary effect that few anticipated. The shadow weave, Shar's alternative magical network, also collapsed. This was Shar's great miscalculation. She had orchestrated Mystra's assassination believing that with the weave destroyed, the shadow weave would become the dominant magical force in the multiverse. Shar would become the new goddess of magic, controlling all arcane power, achieving a goal she had pursued for millennia. She was catastrophically wrong. The shadow weave was not independent of the weave. It was parasitic upon it, drawing its structure and stability from the very thing it opposed. When the weave collapsed, the shadow weave had nothing to attach to, nothing to define itself against. It unraveled even more quickly than the weave itself, and Shar's dream of magical supremacy died with it. She had destroyed the very foundation upon which her own power structure rested, an irony that would have been amusing if it had not cost millions of lives. Cyric, the mad god who actually wielded the weapon that killed Mystra, fared no better. The other deities recognized that the Spellplague threatened the entire cosmic order. Gods do not normally cooperate across alignment boundaries, but this crisis forced unprecedented alliances. Lathander, Tyr, and Siûn, deities of vastly different portfolios and philosophies, united to arrest Cyric. They imprisoned him for a sentence of 1,000 years, removing him from divine affairs and ensuring he could cause no further damage while the multiverse struggled to recover. Yet the damage was already done, and it extended far beyond the immediate collapse of magical infrastructure. The death of Mystra and the destruction of her divine realm, Tuiomerheart, created a metaphysical wound in the structure of reality. This wound manifested as a breach between Toril and its twin world Eber, the same worlds that Io the Overgod had separated in ancient times. The barrier between them failed, and portions of each world began switching places. You could fall asleep in your village on Toril and wake up to find yourself on Eber, surrounded by completely alien geography, sky, and inhabitants. Entire nations vanished from Toril as the corresponding landmass from Eber replaced it. The people caught in these exchanges faced impossible situations. Torilians who found themselves on Eber discovered a world ruled by primordials rather than gods, where divine magic functioned erratically or not at all. Eber natives who appeared on Toril encountered gods they did not worship and magical structures they did not understand. The Dragonborn are the most significant example of this exchange. They were natives of Eber, an entire civilization that had never existed on Toril before the Spellplague. When portions of Eber merged with Toril, the Dragonborn came with them, suddenly present in a world that had no historical record of their existence. They had to integrate into societies that viewed them as alien invaders or strange new monsters. The Dragonborn themselves struggled to understand where they were and what had happened. Their own histories and cultural contexts rendered meaningless in this new reality. The collapse of magical infrastructure affected different types of magic in different ways, revealing secrets about the fundamental nature of arcane and divine power. Items that permanently stored magic, such as certain ancient artifacts, continued to function normally. This demonstrated that not all magical items drew their power directly from the weave. Some possessed inherent magical properties that existed independent of any external magical network. The distinction had been largely theoretical before the Spellplague. Afterward, it became a matter of life and death for anyone depending on magical equipment. Divine magic also proved more resilient than arcane magic. Clerics could still access their spells, drawing power directly from their deities rather than through the weave. Yet even divine magic became unreliable and weaker in the immediate aftermath of Mystra's death. The gods themselves were destabilized by the collapse of the weave. Their ability to grant power to their followers diminished. This revealed that even divine magic had some dependency on the magical infrastructure Mystra maintained, though the exact nature of this dependency remains poorly understood. Most magical portals, the permanent gateways between locations or planes that wizards had constructed over thousands of years, became inert or began malfunctioning. Some portals that had connected specific cities now led to random locations that changed each time someone passed through. Others became one-way passages, allowing entry but not exit, or exit but not entry. Still others became death traps, tearing apart anything that attempted to use them. The network of portals that had connected the civilized world dissolved into chaos, isolating communities that had relied on instant magical transportation. The period following the Spellplague became known as the Wailing Years, a decade of unrelenting catastrophe as the full effects of the weave's collapse rippled through reality. Magic continued to be unreliable throughout this period. Spells that should have been simple might fail completely or produce wildly unpredictable effects. A wizard attempting to light a candle with magic might accidentally immolate an entire building. A cleric trying to heal a wound might cause it to worsen. The fundamental trust that spellcasters placed in their abilities vanished, replaced by fear and uncertainty. Large areas of Toril remained magically irradiated, zones called plaguelands where reality itself had become unstable. In these regions, natural laws functioned erratically. Gravity might reverse or cease entirely. Time could flow at different rates in different locations within the same plagueland. Living creatures who entered often underwent transformation similar to the spell-scarred, their bodies reshaped by chaotic magical energies. These plaguelands persisted for nearly a century, some continuing to cause problems even into the 1400s Dale reckoning. Interestingly, the collapse of the weave corresponded with a dramatic increase in psionically gifted individuals. Psionic power, the ability to shape reality through mental discipline rather than magical formulas, had always been rare. After the Spellplague, it became significantly more common. This suggests that psionic abilities draw upon a source of power entirely separate from the weave, one that actually became more accessible when the weave collapsed. The relationship between magic and psionics remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of arcane theory. Those who survived the initial catastrophe faced the challenge of relearning magic entirely. The old spells, the carefully structured formulas that wizards had perfected over thousands of years, no longer functioned. A new system had to be developed, one that did not rely on the weave in the same way. This new magic was less powerful in some ways, more restricted in scope, yet also more personal, drawing upon the caster's own inner reserves rather than an external network. Yet Mystra was not truly dead, or not permanently so. A vestige of her divine essence survived the assassination. Fragments scattered across multiple individuals and locations. Her chosen, mortals who bore pieces of her power, became the vessels through which she would eventually return. The symbol, one of the most powerful of Mystra's chosen, was tasked with closing rifts in reality and between different planes. In performing this work, she absorbed vast amounts of silver fire and blue flame, the divine energies associated with Mystra and the Spellplague, respectively. In 1479 Dale Reckoning, 94 years after her death, Mystra returned. She was restored through the efforts of her chosen, and through some mechanism that even scholars do not fully understand. Her return marked the beginning of the end of the Spellplague's effects. Magic began to stabilize. The weave reformed, though not exactly as it had been before. The new weave bore the scars of its destruction, functioning with subtle differences that older spellcasters could perceive, even if they could not fully articulate what had changed. Yet questions remain about Mystra's nature after this fourth incarnation. Is she truly the same goddess who died? Io, the over-god, claimed he could not restore her exactly as she had been. What does this mean? Does the current Mystra lack some essential quality that the previous incarnation possessed? Does she remember everything from before her death? Or are there gaps in her divine memory? These questions have no confirmed answers, only speculation, and the uneasy awareness that the goddess of magic is not quite what she once was. The Spellplague revealed fundamental truths about the nature of magic that had remained hidden for millennia. Magic is not eternal or unchanging. It can be destroyed completely and catastrophically. The weave is not a natural feature of reality, but a construct, something created and maintained through continuous divine effort. Without that maintenance, magic reverts to a chaotic and dangerous state, more likely to harm than help those who attempt to use it. The crisis also demonstrated the interdependence of different magical systems. The shadow weave could not exist without the weave. Divine magic was affected by the collapse of arcane infrastructure. Even permanent magical items showed diminished function during the worst of the Spellplague. This interconnectedness means that no magical system is truly independent or safe from catastrophic failure. The entire structure of magical reality rests on foundations that can be shattered by a single assassination, a single moment of divine murder. You live now in a world that has recovered from the Spellplague, but bears its scars. The geography of Faerûn, was permanently altered. Nations that existed before 1385 Dale Reckoning vanished entirely. New nations emerged from the chaos. The Dragonborn and other Aber natives are now permanent residents of Toril. Their presence, a constant reminder of how reality itself can be reshaped by magical catastrophe. Magic functions again, but spellcasters know it can fail, that the weave they depend upon is fragile despite its apparent stability. The secrets revealed by the Spellplague concern not just history, but the fundamental structure of existence. You live in a reality held together by forces that can be destroyed. The gods who seem all-powerful can be murdered. The magic that seems eternal can collapse. Nothing is permanent, nothing is safe, and the catastrophes of the past could return at any moment if the conditions align. This knowledge changes how you must view the world. Every spell cast is a small risk. Every prayer offered acknowledges a deity who could die tomorrow. Every moment of stability exists only because the underlying forces remain balanced for now, with no guarantee that balance will last. Section 4. Ancient Empires and Lost Knowledge. The civilizations you see across Faerûn today. Waterdeep with its bustling ports. Cormor with its noble traditions. Thay with its red wizards. These are children playing in the ruins of giants. The true powers of this world rose and fell thousands of years before the current age. Their achievements so far beyond modern capabilities that contemporary scholars can barely comprehend the fragments that remain. You walk every day upon layers of buried history, cities built atop cities, empires erased so completely that even their names survive only in the most obscure texts. Netheril stands as the most significant of these lost civilizations, an empire of magic that stretched across what is now the Anauroch Desert for over 3,000 years. When you imagine a nation of wizards, you probably think of isolated towers where eccentric mages study alone, or perhaps magical academies where gifted students learn their craft. Netheril was nothing like this limited vision. Every citizen, from the lowest laborer to the highest arcanist, possessed magical ability. Children learned cantrips alongside their letters. Farmers used spells to tend their crops. Merchants enchanted their goods as a matter of routine business practice. This began in negative 3,859 Dale Reckoning, when a primitive human settlement called Zhentarim, formed from the union of 7 villages, encountered elven refugees fleeing some unrecorded catastrophe. These elves carried with them books of magic, grimoires containing the structured arcane knowledge that elven civilization had accumulated over millennia. They offered to teach the humans in exchange for shelter and protection. The humans agreed, and in that agreement, everything changed. Within a single generation, humans who had previously known only the most basic survival skills were casting spells that rivaled those of apprentice elven mages. Within a century, human arcanists had begun developing their own magical theories, approaches to spellcasting that differed fundamentally from elven methods. The elves had always approached magic with caution, treating it as a sacred art that required centuries of careful study. The humans treated it as a tool, something to be exploited, pushed to its limits, bent toward practical purposes regardless of safety or tradition. The founding of the nation of Netheril proper occurred in negative 3,859 Dale reckoning, though the civilization that would bear this name had already begun its transformation. You must understand that what followed was not simply a powerful magical kingdom. It was a complete reimagining of what civilization could be when magic became as commonplace as agriculture or metalworking. By negative 3,014 Dale reckoning, a Netherese arcanist named Iulaum had invented the Mythalar, a device that fundamentally changed the relationship between magic and society. The Mythalar was not a single artifact, but a technology, a method of creating a permanent magical field that could power countless lesser enchantments without requiring individual spellcasters. You could think of it as a magical equivalent of a power plant, generating energy that flowed through infrastructure to reach every home and workplace. Quasi-magical items, objects that functioned like magical equipment, but drew their power from a Mythalar rather than from the weave directly, became commonplace. You could have running water in every home, climate control in every room, lighting that never required fuel or maintenance, all powered by a single Mythalar. Yet, Iulaum's greatest achievement came in negative 2,954 Dale reckoning, when he created the first floating enclave, using a modified version of the Spellproctive's Move Mountain. He lifted the entire city of Zinlinal into the sky. The city did not simply float. It could move, navigate, travel across vast distances, while its inhabitants went about their daily lives, completely unaware of the motion. The Mythalar that powered the city also maintained its levitation, a permanent effect that required no ongoing effort from any individual wizard. Other enclaves followed rapidly. Within 2 centuries, Netheril was lifting approximately 1 enclave per year into the sky. These were not small settlements. Some enclaves housed populations of tens of thousands, complete cities with all their infrastructure suspended thousands of feet above the ground. They orbited in patterns around Netheril's territory, or rode air currents to distant regions, establishing Nethere's presence across enormous stretches of Faerûn. The arcanists who lived in these sky cities called themselves High Netheril, distinguishing themselves from Low Netheril, the ground-based settlements that continued to exist below. This division between High and Low Netheril created social stratification that would have profound consequences. The most powerful wizards lived in the enclaves, enjoying luxury and safety that ground dwellers could not imagine. Low Netheril provided resources, food, raw materials, the mundane necessities that even flying cities required. Yet Low Netheril also bore the consequences of High Netheril's magical experiments. The constant spellcasting, the massive flows of magical energy channeled through mythalers, the reality-bending effects of hundreds of floating cities. All of this had effects that the Netherese did not anticipate or chose to ignore. Deep beneath the surface of the earth lived creatures called Faerûn. These beings resembled enormous worms or slugs, conical bodies tapering to a point at one end, with 4 arms and a lamprey-like mouth at the wider end. They possessed magical abilities that rivaled or exceeded those of Netherese arcanists, innate powers rather than learned spells, magic as natural to them as breathing. The Faerûn had lived undisturbed in their subterranean realm for uncounted ages, content to remain separate from surface civilization. The magical residue from Netherese spellcasting seeped into the earth, corrupting the Faerûn's environment, poisoning their realm with chaotic energies. For decades, perhaps centuries, they endured this contamination, hoping it would stop or diminish. It did not. It grew worse as Netheril's magical capabilities expanded, and their use of reality warping spells became ever more casual and widespread. Finally, in negative 461 Dale Reckoning, the Faerûn retaliated. They began casting spells of life drain, magic that drew both vitality and magical energy from the land itself. The effects were gradual at first, a slight decrease in crop yields, a subtle dimming of magical lights, nothing that seemed particularly alarming. Then the rate accelerated. Fields that had been lush and productive became barren within seasons. Rivers dried up, plants died, animals fled or perished. The land itself was being transformed into lifeless wasteland. Low Netheril bore the brunt of this catastrophe. The floating enclaves of High Netheril were initially protected by their altitude and their mythalers' power. But as the Faerûn intensified their assault, even the sky cities began to suffer. In negative 427 Dale Reckoning, the enclaves of Layada and Tithe Tylandrothil fell from the sky, their mythalers overcome by the draining effects of Faerûn magic. Thousands died in an instant as entire cities crashed into the dying earth below. The other enclaves immediately erected additional wards, magical defenses specifically designed to counter this form of attack. But the damage was done. The people of Low Netheril faced an impossible situation. Their homeland was dying, transforming day by day into an uninhabitable desert. They began migrating, massive movements of population fleeing westward and northward to regions not yet affected by the Faerûn's spells. The settlement of Alusk, far to the west on what would later be called the Sword Coast, became a primary destination for Netherese refugees. Other groups traveled even farther, founding settlements in the savage frontier, the Ice Mountains, regions where life was harsh, but at least still possible. High Netheril faced a different crisis. They possessed the magical power to fight back against the Faerûn, but doing so required descending into the depths of the earth, engaging these creatures in their own territory, where every advantage lay with the enemy. Some arcanists attempted this. Most died. A few succeeded in killing individual Faerûn, but for every one destroyed, dozens more remained, and the life-drain spells continued unabated. The Netherese also discovered something disturbing. Their most powerful spells, the reality-altering magic that had made their civilization possible, often failed or produced unpredictable effects in the regions affected by Faerûn magic. Wild magic zones appeared, areas where the weave itself became unstable, where attempting to cast any spell risked catastrophic consequences. The very tool they had relied upon, the magic that defined their civilization, was becoming dangerous and unreliable. Into this crisis was born Karsus in -696 Dale Reckoning. Even among the prodigious talents of Netherese arcanists, Karsus stood out. He achieved mastery of spells that took others decades to learn, comprehending complex magical theories almost instantly. By his early 20s, he had created his own floating enclave called Eilenar. He discovered an entire new category of magic he called heavy magic, spells of such power and complexity that no previous wizard had even conceived of them. Karsus looked at the dying empire around him and concluded that conventional solutions would fail. The Faerûn War had been going on for over 2 centuries. Netheril was losing slowly, inexorably, dying by inches as its land became desert and its population fled or perished. Conventional magic, even the most powerful spells in the Netherese arsenal, could not reverse this process. Therefore, Karsus reasoned, unconventional magic was required. He spent years developing a spell of his own creation, one he called Karsus's Avatar. The goal of this spell was simple to state, but catastrophically difficult to achieve. He would temporarily usurp the position of Mistral, the goddess of magic at that time, taking her divine portfolio and wielding her power for long enough to destroy all the Faerûn at once and restore Netheril's land to fertility. With the power of the goddess of magic herself, he could rewrite reality on a scale that would make even the greatest previous spells look like cantrips. On the 30th day of the 3rd month, in -339 Dale Reckoning, Karsus cast his spell. The casting took 6 hours, the most complex ritual ever attempted by any mortal spellcaster. For those 6 hours, Karsus spoke words of power in an unbroken stream, channeling magical energies on a scale that threatened to tear apart the fabric of reality around him. And then, for one brief moment, he succeeded. Karsus became the god of magic. He felt Mistral's power flowing through him, the awareness of every spell being cast anywhere in the multiverse, the constant effort required to maintain the weave itself, the crushing responsibility of keeping magic functional and safe for countless trillions of beings across infinite planes of existence. For one eternal moment, Karsus was a god, and he understood exactly what he had done. The weave had already been weakened by centuries of Faerûn attacks and Netheri's magical excess. It was damaged, strained, holding together through Mistral's constant attention and repair. When Karsus forcibly took control, when he ripped divine power away from the goddess who had maintained magic since time immemorial, the weave collapsed. Every mythaller in every Netheri's enclave stopped functioning simultaneously. Every spell being cast anywhere failed instantly. Magic simply ceased to work. The floating enclaves fell. Dozens of cities, housing hundreds of thousands of people, plummeted from the sky in seconds. Most were completely destroyed on impact. Some broke apart in midair, scattering their inhabitants across miles of terrain. A few, protected by emergency wards that activated the instant their mythallers failed, survived the fall, but were left stranded in the middle of the desert that Netheril had become. Karsus died in that moment. The instant magic failed. His spell required ongoing magical energy to maintain his divine transformation. When the weave collapsed, so did the spell, and the divine power he had stolen returned to its source. But Mistral was already gone. She had sacrificed herself to preserve the weave at the moment Karsus took control, allowing herself to be destroyed so that the fundamental structure of magic could be saved and rebuilt. The goddess who reformed from Mistral's sacrifice took a new name, Mistra, and she implemented a new rule that would govern all magic from that point forward. No spell above 9th level would be possible. No mortal magic could ever again reach the scale and power that Netheri's arcanists had achieved. This was not punishment, it was prevention, ensuring that what Karsus did could never be repeated, that no mortal would ever again threaten the existence of magic itself through excessive ambition. One Netheri's enclave survived intact. Thultanthar, also called the Shade Enclave, was ruled by the arcanist Telemont Tanthal. In the moments before Karsus cast his avatar spell, Telemont made a desperate decision. He shifted his entire enclave into the plane of shadow, removing it from the material world entirely. When the other enclaves fell, when magic collapsed and Netheril died, Thultanthar remained safe in the shadowy parallel dimension, preserved in perfect stasis. For over 3,700 years, Thultanthar remained in the plane of shadow, its inhabitants, exposed to that realm's corrupting influence for millennia, slowly transformed. They became shade, beings of shadow and darkness, their physical forms altered, their magical abilities changed, their very nature twisted by prolonged exposure to that dark dimension. And they waited, planning, preparing for the day when they would return to the material plane and restore the Netheri's empire to its former glory. That day came in 1372 Dale reckoning. Telemont, now calling himself the Most High, and styling himself as the rightful ruler of all Netheril's former territory, brought Thultanthar back to Toril. The Shade Enclave appeared over the Anarok Desert, the vast wasteland that had once been fertile Netheri's farmland, now a permanent permanent scar on the face of Faerûn. The Shadowy, as they called themselves, immediately began working to expand their influence, using subterfuge and political manipulation to gain control over nearby nations. By 1487 Dale reckoning, the Shadowy ruled Sembia as a protectorate and had extended their control into multiple other heartland nations. They presented themselves as restorers of order, powerful beings who could protect lesser nations from threats. Yet, their true goal remained the rebuilding of Netheryl's empire, and they pursued this with patience and ruthlessness that centuries in shadow had perfected. The Shadowy sought artifacts from ancient Netheryl, particularly the fabled Nether Scrolls, texts containing magical knowledge that predated even the elven grimoires that had first taught humans to use magic. Netheryl was not the only great empire to fall and leave behind dangerous secrets. Imaskar, another ancient human civilization, had achieved magical prowess that rivaled Netheryl's through completely different methods. The Imaskari focused on artifice rather than personal spellcasting, creating magical devices and constructs of incredible power. They enslaved entire populations from other worlds, bringing them to Toril as laborers through portals that bypassed divine intervention. This hubris eventually destroyed them when the gods of their slaves found ways around the Imaskar barrier and unleashed divine retribution. The knowledge these empires possessed, the spells they developed, the artifacts they created, most of it is lost, buried in ruins, scattered across multiple planes, deliberately hidden or destroyed. What survives exists as fragments, tantalizing hints of capabilities that modern wizards can barely comprehend. A scroll containing part of a Netherese spell might be worth more than an entire kingdom's treasury, not for its material value, but for the knowledge it represents, the possibility of recovering even a fraction of what was lost. You live in the shadow of these fallen giants, walking through a world that is diminished, limited, a pale reflection of what existed in ages past. The greatest achievements of your civilization would have been considered mundane in Netheryl's golden age. The most powerful wizards alive today would have been average practitioners in ancient Imaskar. This is what it means for these realms to be forgotten, not that no one remembers them, but that what they achieved has been lost so completely that it can never be fully recovered, only glimpsed through fragments and ruins that hint at vanished glory. Section 5, Secret Societies and Hidden, powers the visible powers of Faerûn. The kings and queens, the archmages and high priests, the merchant lords and military commanders. They represent only the surface level of political reality. Beneath this public hierarchy operates a shadow world of secret societies, covert operatives, and hidden agendas that shape events far more effectively than any public institution. You might think you understand who holds power in your city or nation, but the true decision makers work from the shadows, their names unknown, their allegiances concealed, their methods invisible to those who lack the knowledge to perceive them. The Harpers stand as perhaps the most famous of these secret organizations. Though famous is a relative term when discussing groups that deliberately conceal their existence. Founded over 1,000 years ago, the Harpers operate across the entire breadth of Faerûn, gathering information, manipulating events, and working toward goals they describe as promoting good and preserving the balance between civilization and nature. Their symbol, a silver harp and crescent moon, appears in hidden locations throughout the realms, marking safe houses, signaling meeting places, or identifying fellow members to those who know what to look for. You could live next door to a Harper agent for decades without realizing it. They recruit from all walks of life, all professions, all social classes. A street beggar might be a Harper informant. A noble's trusted advisor might report directly to Harper leadership. A tavern keeper, a merchant caravan guard, a court musician. Any of these could be gathering information for the Harpers while appearing to pursue their normal occupations. The organization values discretion above nearly all other qualities, and members who reveal themselves unnecessarily or carelessly often find their association with the Harpers terminated permanently. The Harpers claim to oppose tyranny and promote individual freedom. Yet their methods often involve manipulation and deception on a scale that would horrify those they claim to protect. They have orchestrated the fall of governments, the assassination of rulers, the disruption of trade networks, all in service of their vision of what the world should be. When you ask who gave them this authority, who appointed them guardians of the balance, the answer is simple and disturbing. They appointed themselves. They decided that they possessed the wisdom and moral authority to shape civilization according to their ideals. And they have pursued this mission for over a millennium with unwavering conviction. The Zhentarim represent the Harper's dark mirror, another secret organization with roots stretching back centuries, but with goals focused on personal power and mercantile dominance rather than abstract ideals. Also called the Black Network, the Zhentarim began as a conspiracy of merchants and mercenaries seeking to control trade routes and eliminate competition through any means necessary. They have evolved into something far more complex, a vast criminal enterprise that also functions as a legitimate trading company, a network of spies and assassins, and a political force capable of influencing nations. Where the Harpers work to prevent any single power from becoming too dominant, the Zhentarim actively seek dominance for themselves. They establish trade monopolies, eliminate rivals, bribe officials, and when necessary, use violence to achieve their objectives. Yet they also provide genuine services, protecting merchant caravans, maintaining roads, offering loans to struggling businesses. This combination of criminal activity and legitimate commerce makes them difficult to categorize or oppose effectively. You cannot simply destroy the Zhentarim without also disrupting the trade networks that many communities depend upon. The current Zhentarim differs significantly from its earlier incarnation. The organization was founded by the evil wizard Faerûn and served for many years as an instrument of his ambition. However, internal conflicts and external pressures have transformed the Black Network into a more decentralized organization, where local cells operate with significant autonomy. Some Zhentarim groups engage primarily in legitimate trade, with only occasional criminal activity. Others remain pure criminal enterprises. Still, others serve as mercenary companies, offering their services to the highest bidder, regardless of moral considerations. This fragmentation makes the Zhentarim simultaneously weaker and more resilient than when it operated as a unified hierarchy. The Chosen represent a different category of hidden power entirely. These are individuals selected by various deities to serve as mortal representatives, granted fragments of divine power, and tasked with advancing their patron's agenda in the mortal world. The most famous Chosen serve Mystra, goddess of magic, and they have played crucial roles in multiple world-changing events. Elminster Aumer, the legendary wizard of Shadowdale, has lived for over 1,000 years, sustained by Mistra's power, intervening in conflicts and crises across that entire span. You might assume that the Chosen operate openly, that individuals wielding divine power would naturally become public figures. Yet many Chosen conceal their status, working covertly to advance their deity's interests while maintaining mundane identities. The reason for this secrecy varies. Some gods prefer their Chosen to work unseen, manipulating events from behind the scenes rather than drawing attention. Others allow their Chosen to operate openly, but task them with missions that require discretion. Still, others have Chosen who alternate between public and covert roles, depending on circumstances. The Seven Sisters, daughters of the witch Elminster loved, all became Chosen of Mystra, though their paths diverged dramatically. Illustriel ruled the city of Silverimun openly, her status as a chosen public knowledge that enhanced her authority. The Symbol, by contrast, operated in secret for much of her existence, her true nature known only to a select few. Silun died and continued her work as a spectral entity, neither fully alive nor truly dead, sustained by divine power even in her ghostly state. Each sister wielded tremendous power, yet they used it in vastly different ways according to their personalities and Mistra's needs. The relationship between Chosen and their deities remains one of the great mysteries of divine magic. How much free will does a Chosen possess? Can they refuse tasks assigned by their patron god? What happens if a Chosen's personal goals conflict with divine objectives? These questions have no simple answers, and different Chosen appear to experience different degrees of autonomy. Some describe their relationship with their deity as a partnership, a collaboration between equals working toward shared goals. Others speak of it more as servitude, following divine commands they cannot refuse even when they disagree with them. The Red Wizards of Thay occupy a unique position among secret and semi-secret organizations. Officially, they are the ruling class of a nation, their identity and activities public knowledge. Yet, the Red Wizards also operate as a secret society within their own nation and across the wider world. Individual Red Wizards establish enclaves in foreign lands, presenting themselves as merchants or scholars, while actually serving as spies and agents of Thayan interests. These enclaves provide legitimate services, selling magical items and offering spellcasting for hire, while simultaneously gathering intelligence and working to expand Thayan influence. The internal politics of the Red Wizards involve conspiracies so complex that even members of the organization struggle to track all the shifting allegiances and hidden agendas. Zulkirs, the 8 most powerful Red Wizards, who each lead a school of magic, compete ruthlessly for dominance within the hierarchy. Alliances form and dissolve based on temporary advantage. Assassination attempts are common enough to be considered routine, yet somehow this chaotic internal structure produces an organization that functions effectively in the wider world, advancing Thayan interests with remarkable consistency despite the constant internal conflict. Zhentarim, a powerful lich and Zulkir of necromancy, has dominated Thayan politics for over a century, transforming the nation from a magocracy ruled by living wizards into an undead empire ruled by liches and other intelligent undead. This transformation occurred gradually through manipulation, assassination, and occasional open warfare. Most citizens of Thay do not realize the extent to which their nation is now controlled by undead beings, who view them primarily as resources to be exploited. The Red Wizards maintain a facade of normalcy, continuing to trade with other nations and present themselves as merely ruthless rather than fundamentally inhuman. The cult of the dragon represents one of the most dangerous secret organizations in Faerûn, dedicated to the transformation of living dragons into dracoliches, undead dragons of immense power. The cult was founded over 1,000 years ago based on a misinterpreted prophecy that claimed the world would one day be ruled by dead dragons. Generations of cultists have worked to fulfill this prophecy by convincing dragons to undergo the transformation into undeath, offering them immortality and freedom from the vulnerabilities of living flesh. Few outside the cult realize how successful this campaign has been. Dozens of dracoliches exist across Faerûn and beyond, ancient dragons who chose undeath over eventual death, now serving as the cult's most powerful assets. These creatures maintain their intelligence, their magical abilities, and their treasure hoards, but they gain immunity to most forms of harm and no longer require sleep or sustenance. A dracolich can wait in its lair for centuries without any maintenance or upkeep, emerging only when the cult requires its services. The Lord's Alliance represents an attempt to create a secret organization operating openly, a paradox that has produced mixed results. The Alliance consists of rulers and representatives from major cities across the Sword Coast and surrounding regions who meet to coordinate responses to common threats. On the surface, this is public knowledge, the existence of the Alliance widely known and generally supported. Yet the Alliance also engages in covert operations, espionage, and political manipulation that its member cities would never publicly acknowledge. Individual Lords Alliance members pursue their own agendas alongside the organization's collective goals, creating a situation where you can never be certain whether an Alliance action represents genuine cooperation or one city manipulating others for its benefit. Waterdeep, as the most powerful member, dominates Alliance decision, making in ways that smaller cities resent but cannot effectively challenge. Yet even Waterdeep's control is not absolute, as the masked Lords of Waterdeep themselves operate through layers of secrecy that make it difficult to determine who actually speaks for the city. The Emerald Enclave focuses on preserving the natural world and maintaining the balance between civilization and wilderness. Unlike the Harpers, who concern themselves primarily with political and social issues, the Enclave focuses specifically on ecological matters. They work to prevent the overexploitation of natural resources, protect endangered species, and oppose those who would destroy forests or poison rivers for profit. Yet they also recognize that civilization has legitimate needs, and they seek accommodation rather than the complete elimination of human presence in wild spaces. Enclave members include druids, rangers, and others who feel a connection to the natural world. They operate as individuals or small cells rather than through a centralized hierarchy, making the organization difficult to infiltrate or oppose systematically. An Enclave agent might spend years establishing themselves as a reliable guide or wilderness expert before revealing their true allegiance and acting to prevent some ecological catastrophe. Or they might never reveal themselves at all, working entirely in secret to achieve Enclave goals without anyone realizing an organization was involved. The Kraken Society serves darker purposes, a secret organization dedicated to the worship and service of Krakens, the immense, intelligent cephalopods that dwell in the deepest oceans. Society members work to advance Kraken interests in the surface world, disrupting shipping, manipulating coastal politics, and occasionally orchestrating mass drownings or other catastrophes. The Society recruits from sailors, merchants, and others with connections to maritime trade. Individuals who can operate without suspicion in port cities and aboard ships. What makes the Kraken Society particularly dangerous is that most members do not know they serve Krakens. The organization uses multiple layers of deception, with only the highest-ranking members aware of the true nature and goals of the Society. Lower-ranking members believe they belong to a criminal organization focused on piracy and smuggling, or perhaps a conspiracy of merchants seeking to control maritime trade. By the time they learn the truth, they are already too deeply compromised to withdraw without facing death from either the society or the legal authorities they have been manipulating. You walk through a world where nothing is entirely as it appears, where the beggar on the corner might report to the Harpers, where the merchant selling you supplies might be Zhentarim, where the helpful ranger who guides you through the forest might serve the Emerald Enclave, where the ship captain transporting your goods might be a member of the Kraken Society. Every interaction potentially connects to larger networks of power and influence that remain forever hidden from those who lack the knowledge or connections to perceive them. The visible world of kings and armies, merchants and guilds represents only the surface of political reality, and the true decisions that shape your fate are made in shadows by people whose names you will never know. Section 6. The deepest mysteries of Faerûn. You have journeyed through layers of hidden history, divine secrets, and catastrophic revelations. Yet, the deepest mysteries of the Forgotten Realms remain largely untouched. These are not simply gaps in historical knowledge or lost magical techniques. They are fundamental questions about the nature of reality itself, puzzles that even the gods cannot or will not answer, phenomena that defy explanation despite centuries of investigation by the most brilliant minds in multiple worlds. The weave itself contains secrets that Mystra, in all her incarnations, has never fully revealed. You know that the weave allows controlled access to magical energy, that it permeates all of reality, that it can be damaged or destroyed under extreme circumstances. Yet, what exactly is the weave made of? Is it a constructed artifact, deliberately created by some ancient power? Is it a natural feature of reality that Mistress simply maintains? Or is it something else entirely, perhaps a living entity with its own consciousness and will? The shadow weave that Shar created raised even more troubling questions. If one goddess could create an alternative magical network, could others do the same? Might there be multiple shadow weaves, hidden magical structures that serve gods or other powers, unknown to mortal spellcasters? The psionics that became more prevalent after the Spellplague suggest that at least one other source of reality manipulation exists completely separate from the weave. How many such sources are there? What beings or forces control them? The far realm represents perhaps the most disturbing mystery that scholars have even partially documented. This is a dimension that exists outside the normal cosmology, beyond the planes that mortals and gods inhabit, beyond even the boundaries that Io the Overgod maintains. The entities that dwell in the far realm operate according to rules that have nothing to do with the laws of nature as understood in the material world. Their very existence seems to violate fundamental principles of reality. When they manifest in the mortal world, they bring madness and corruption, transforming everything they touch into something that should not be. Yet contact with the far realm has occurred repeatedly throughout history. Warlocks make pacts with entities from that dimension, gaining power in exchange for service to beings they cannot truly comprehend. Certain ancient artifacts appear to originate from the far realm, or were created using knowledge derived from it. Some scholars claim that aberrations, the category of monsters that includes mind flayers and beholders, have far realm origins or connections. If this is true, it means the far realm has been influencing the material world for thousands upon thousands of years, shaping the evolution of species and civilizations in ways that remain completely opaque. What does the far realm want? Can a dimension have desires or goals? Do the entities within it pursue some incomprehensible agenda? Or do they simply exist in ways that happen to be catastrophically harmful to beings from the material world? No one knows. The few scholars who have seriously investigated the far realm have either gone mad, vanished entirely, or returned with information so disturbing and incomprehensible that it proves useless for practical purposes. The mind flayers present related mysteries. These beings claim to come from the future, from a time when they ruled an empire that spanned multiple worlds and dominated countless species. They say they traveled backward through time to escape some catastrophic threat that destroyed their empire. If this is true, it raises profound questions about the nature of time itself. Can the future change the past? If mind flayers exist now because they fled backward from a future empire, does that mean their empire is destined to eventually rise? Or has their time travel already changed the timeline, preventing the very empire they fled from? The Illithids refuse to provide clear answers to these questions, and their telepathic abilities make it nearly impossible to interrogate them effectively. They may be lying about their origins entirely. The story of the future empire might be propaganda, a myth designed to intimidate potential enemies or provide psychological comfort to the mind flayers themselves. Yet if they are telling the truth, if they genuinely are refugees from a timeline that may or may not still exist, the implications transform our understanding of causality and destiny in fundamental ways. Undermountain, the vast dungeon complex beneath Waterdeep, contains mysteries that have defied investigation for centuries. The mad wizard Halaster created much of it, but even he built upon foundations that pre-existed his work by thousands of years. The deepest levels of Undermountain extend miles below the surface, far deeper than any natural cave system should reach. They contain chambers that predate human civilization entirely, rooms carved by unknown hands for unknown purposes. Adventurers who venture into Undermountain's depths encounter things that should not exist. Entire ecosystems function in complete darkness miles underground, sustained by no apparent food source. Portals lead to other planes or to locations on the surface world that are thousands of miles away. Time flows erratically, with some chambers experiencing days, while others experience only hours. Halaster himself appears and disappears randomly, sometimes helping delvers, sometimes attacking them, sometimes simply observing with apparent amusement before vanishing again. What lies at the very bottom of Undermountain? Halaster knows, but he is quite thoroughly insane and cannot or will not provide coherent answers. Some speculate that he encountered something in the deepest levels that drove him mad, that his insanity is not a personal failing, but a side effect of exposure to some reality-breaking truth or entity. Others claim that Halaster was always mad, that he dug downward compulsively for centuries without any particular goal. The truth remains hidden in darkness miles below the busiest city in Faerûn. The eldest, also called the Elder Evils or the Ancient Brethren, represent threats that exist on a scale beyond anything mortals normally contemplate. These are entities of immense power, beings that predate the gods, that may have existed before the current structure of reality was established. They slumber in forgotten places, sealed away by magic or divine power, waiting for conditions that will allow their return. Some are imprisoned in the far realm. Others sleep beneath the surface of worlds or drift in the void between stars. A few may already be active, working through intermediaries to prepare the way for their full manifestation. The gods fear the eldest. This alone should terrify you. Beings who can destroy nations with a thought, who reshape reality according to their will, who have existed for eons beyond mortal comprehension. These gods consider the eldest a serious threat. What does that imply about the eldest's power? What could they do if they fully manifested? Some prophecies claim that the return of even one elder evil would trigger the end of the current age, destroying the balance between good and evil, law and chaos, forcing reality itself to restructure around their presence. Certain cults worship the eldest, seeking to hasten their return or curry favor in hopes of being spared or elevated when the end comes. These cults operate in absolute secrecy, knowing that both gods and mortals would unite to destroy them if their activities became known. They engage in human sacrifice, perform rituals designed to weaken the seals that bind their patrons, and work to corrupt or eliminate individuals who might oppose the eldest's return. You could live next door to such a cultist, work alongside them, even call them friend, and never suspect what they truly worship or what they are working to achieve. The current year in the Forgotten Realms, 1497 Dale Reckoning, according to the most recent timeline, marks an era of relative stability following the tumultuous events of the Spellplague and the Sundering. Yet stability in the Forgotten Realms is always temporary, always fragile. History demonstrates that catastrophic events occur with disturbing regularity, each one reshaping the world in fundamental ways. The time of troubles, the Spellplague, the Sundering, these are not isolated incidents, but part of a pattern that suggests reality itself is unstable, prone to periodic crises that mortals can barely survive, let alone prevent. Why does this keep happening? Is there something fundamentally wrong with the structure of the Forgotten Realms? Some flaw in how Io established reality in this crystal sphere? Or are these catastrophes actually necessary periodic adjustments that prevent even worse outcomes? Some scholars speculate that without these reality-shaking events, the various forces competing for dominance would eventually tear everything apart. The catastrophes serve as releases, pressure valves, that allow the cosmic structure to survive by periodically destroying and rebuilding portions of itself. The gods themselves may not be eternal. You have seen multiple deities die throughout history. Some were resurrected, others replaced by new gods who assumed their portfolios. Yet the pattern suggests that divine mortality is not exceptional, but routine. Gods rise and fall like mortal rulers, their reigns measured in millennia rather than decades, but ultimately finite nonetheless. What does this mean for the cosmic order? If gods can die, if their power can be stolen or lost, then nothing is truly permanent. The divine hierarchy exists only as long as its current members can maintain their positions against all challengers. The chosen of various gods provide some continuity across divine deaths and resurrections. When Mystra died during the Spellplague, her chosen preserved fragments of her essence, eventually enabling her return. This suggests that the relationship between gods and chosen flows in both directions. Gods empower their chosen, but chosen can also sustain or even resurrect their patrons under the right circumstances. The full implications of this reciprocal relationship remain unexplored. Could a sufficiently powerful chosen transform themselves into a god without Io's permission, by gradually accumulating divine essence? Could multiple chosen merge to create a new deity? The rules governing such transformations are unknown, possibly because Io deliberately keeps them hidden to prevent exploitation. Artifacts of immense power scatter across Faerûn, many of them with origins that cannot be traced or explained. The Eye of Vecna, the Hand of Vecna, the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, the Wand of Orcus, dozens of legendary items whose creators are lost to history, or who come from other worlds entirely. Each artifact possesses capabilities that exceed normal magical item crafting. They cannot be destroyed by conventional means. They often exhibit what appears to be intelligence, or at least goal-directed behavior, appearing where they will cause the most disruption, or finding their way to individuals who will use them for particular purposes. This suggests that artifacts are not simply powerful magic items, but entities in their own right, perhaps fragments of divine power bound into physical form, or repositories of consciousness from beings who used this method to achieve a form of immortality. When you wield an artifact, are you truly controlling it? Or is it allowing you to use its power while subtly manipulating your decisions toward its own ends? The line between using an artifact and being used by it may not exist at all. Dragons possess knowledge that predates most civilizations. Ancient dragons have lived for thousands of years, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, accumulating not just treasure, but information about events that no written record preserves. Yet dragons rarely share this knowledge with other species, They guard their secrets as jealously as they guard their gold, and for similar reasons. Information is power, and power is to be hoarded rather than distributed. What do the oldest dragons remember? What did they witness during the days of thunder, when gods and primordials fought for dominance? What secrets about the true nature of the world did they learn during their millennia of existence? A dragon who has lived for 10,000 years possesses historical context that no mortal scholar can match. Perspective that transforms our understanding of current events. Yet obtaining such knowledge requires either befriending a dragon, an almost impossibly difficult task, or finding some way to compel information from a creature that can destroy armies. The planar structure of the multiverse itself contains mysteries that even extraplanar travelers cannot fully explain. Why does the material plane exist? What purpose does it serve in the larger cosmic structure? The gods need mortal worshippers to sustain their power, but why? What is the fundamental mechanism by which worship translates to divine energy? Prayers and offerings seem inadequate to explain how billions of mortal minds can empower beings capable of reshaping reality. There must be some underlying structure, some magical or metaphysical machinery that channels mortal faith into divine power. Yet no one has successfully mapped or described this system. The blood war between demons and devils has raged for longer than most gods have existed. These two groups of fiendish creatures battle endlessly in the lower planes, their conflict so ancient that neither side remembers how or why it began. Some scholars claim the blood war serves a necessary function, containing evil within the lower planes by keeping demons and devils focused on each other rather than on invading the material world. Yet this raises disturbing questions. Who benefits from the blood war continuing indefinitely? Is there some power that deliberately maintains this conflict, perhaps manipulating both sides to ensure they never achieve lasting victory or peace? The nature of the soul remains fundamentally mysterious, despite the existence of divine magic that manipulates souls directly. When you die, where exactly does your soul go? Different religions provide different answers. Each claiming their deity takes the souls of faithful followers to their divine realm. Yet what happens to souls of those who worship no god, or who worship multiple gods, or who belong to religions not recognized by major pantheons? Some evidence suggests souls can be destroyed entirely, consumed by certain creatures or magical effects. If souls can be destroyed, does that mean consciousness can truly end? Or does something survive even soul destruction? Reincarnation occurs, demonstrating that some souls return to the material world in new bodies. Yet the mechanism by which this happens and the rules governing which souls reincarnate remain unclear. Does reincarnation require divine intervention, or can it occur naturally? Do reincarnated souls retain memories from previous lives, or are those memories locked away somehow? The existence of individuals who claim to remember past lives suggests that memory can survive death and reincarnation. But such claims are difficult to verify, and might represent delusion or fraud rather than genuine continuity of consciousness. You stand now at the end of this journey through hidden knowledge, having glimpsed secrets that most will never encounter, yet you have barely scratched the surface. For every secret revealed here, hundreds more remain buried, waiting for someone with sufficient courage and insight to uncover them. The Forgotten Realms are vast beyond measure, ancient beyond comprehension, and strange beyond imagining. Every answer raises new questions. Every mystery solved reveals deeper mysteries lurking beneath. The world you inhabit is not stable or safe. It is a thin veneer of order stretched over bottomless chaos. The gods who seem all-powerful are vulnerable and fearful. The magic that seems reliable can collapse without warning. The history you think you know has been sanitized, edited, and in many cases completely fabricated. Nothing is certain. Nothing is permanent. And the catastrophes that destroyed previous ages could return at any moment to destroy your age as well. Yet this instability is also what makes the Forgotten Realms endlessly fascinating. You live in a world where individual choices matter, where a single person can change the course of history, where adventurers can challenge gods and sometimes win. The secrets you have learned are not simply historical curiosities. They are tools, weapons, sources of power that you can use to shape your own destiny, and perhaps the destiny of the entire world. The question is what you will do with this knowledge. Will you seek out more secrets, delving into ancient ruins and forbidden libraries to recover lost lore? Will you align yourself with one of the secret societies that shape events from the shadows? Will you pursue divine power, attempting to become chosen or even achieve apotheosis yourself? Or will you use what you have learned to protect others, working to prevent the next catastrophe, or at least to ensure that when it comes, civilization survives? The Forgotten Realms await your choice. The secrets are there for those bold enough to seek them. The power is there for those strong enough to claim it. And the destiny of the world remains unwritten, waiting for individuals like you to determine what comes next. History is not something that happens to you. It is something you create through your choices and actions. The secrets revealed here are your starting point, your foundation for understanding the hidden forces that shape reality. Where you go from here, what you do with this knowledge, that is entirely up to you. The veil has been lifted. The forgotten has been remembered. Now go forth and make your mark upon a world that desperately needs heroes willing to face its deepest mysteries and darkest secrets. The realms themselves are watching, waiting to see what you will become.